Hello, everyone, dear audience. I'm very pleased to be here with you today. My name is Edward Plus. I'm Director of New Business and Innovation at Bureau Veritas Certification, based in Paris. Here with me today, and thank you for that, my colleague Jens Bertelsen. Jens, can you please introduce yourself briefly?
Of course, I will do that. Hello, my name is Jens Bertelsen. I'm a lead auditor and business developer here with Bureau Veritas in Denmark, the Nordic region, helping our customers implement and assess and certify systems like, for instance, information security, as we speak about today.
Okay, and so here today with Jens, we're gonna deep dive into the ISO 27001 standard. You got it. Today is about cybersecurity. To be more specific, the version 2022 of the ISO 27001 standard was released in late October 2022, as it's mentioned in the name. And we believe that it is worth having a look into what it means, to what are the evolutions, what are the next steps for the certified companies, or those who would like to become ISO 27001 certified. But to do so, we need to take a step back a little. We need to give a little more context first. First thing first, well, we're going to introduce Bureau Veritas and cybersecurity. What are we doing in this world? Second, we're going to go into the ISO 27000 series and standard and guidelines to help position a tiny bit the ISO 27001. And then we'll see that with the evolution of the ISO 27001 standard, well, to understand them, we need to go to the ISO 27002 guidelines and their evolutions, because new version of the ISO 27002 was released in February 2022. We'll obviously conclude with some key steps on what you need to do if you're certified or if you're willing to be. Jens, are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Fired up.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So first thing first, who's Bureau Veritas, or as we call ourselves, BV? BV is a world leader in laboratory testing, inspection, and certification services. We were created in 1828, so almost 200 years ago. The group has almost 82,000 employees all around the world, located in 1,600 offices and laboratories around the globe. BV is helping its clients improve their performance by offering services and innovative solutions to ensure that their assets, products, infrastructure, and processes meet standards and regulation in terms of quality, health and safety, environmental protection, and social responsibility. With about 5 billion euro of revenues in 2021, BV is one of the world leader in the TIC sector, with more than 400,000 clients in more than 140 countries. So long story short, boots on the ground, everywhere in the world, technically. We have a strong presence also to present a bit more our activities in building and infrastructure, in agri-food commodities and industry. I personally work in the certification business, which stands for about 8% of our revenues. And my team oversees the development of sustainability, food training, and cyber businesses. And so cyber is the theme of today. What do we do in cyber? Maybe Jens, you want to comment a tiny bit. Bureau Veritas certification is covering most of the enterprise risk. So what does it mean? Can you present this time to our audience?
I will happily do that. Well, cybersecurity services with Bureau Veritas is about to help you take control of your digital security. And we are out of a world of standards. We need to say that. We work with standards every day, and we also do that when we are certifying, testing, and do inspections, that the core basis that we are having with us and that companies are leaning towards is the standard and the regulatory landscape. And for that, standard in enterprise risk or cybersecurity world is information security, GDPR, risk management, business continuity, and the standards about that, bribery, active controls, and the last one mentioned here, data center operation is for more those that have their own data centers and will operate there. But besides of the certification part that we do many other things that helps clients to take their own control or to find their control again. That is inspection, internal audit. We help with that. We also go in and do engagements like lead auditors in internal audit, for instance. We do customized analysis, customized audits based on your input from clients or from people inside clients. We support with advisors. We do training, education. And we also, for instance, myself, I'm also educate people in the methodology like internal audit, how to do internal audit. So we have lots of services to come up with in terms of helping you take in control.
And we even go a tiny bit further, Jens, because we also offer other cyber services, right? In addition to the traditional certification business, we offer services through the Secura company. So BV, Bureau Veritas, wants to be an independent, trusted party in cybersecurity. So we acquired in 2021 the company Secura to complement our ISO 27001, for example, certification business. As you can see on this short presentation, Secura has a long track record with more than 20 years working in cybersecurity. We have more than 100 people dedicated to the subject and quite a broad industry expertise or experience. A track record in sectors such as power, utilities, oil and gas, technology, healthcare, finance, automotive, and transportation. Which is interesting to my eyes is that Secura offers a holistic approach of cybersecurity, and it helps you improve your resilience through 3 pillars: people, through training, tests, and the complete SAFE program. Very interesting to dig in. I recommend that you have a look at what they are doing there. Second pillar is process, both on IT and OT, on the compliance to the NIST directive, for example, and technology through vulnerability testing or assessment, pen testing, threat modeling. These guys are really amazing. We're working with them, with Jens quite often. And I recommend that you go to secura.com to see what they're doing. They have a lot of free webinars also that you can sign up for. That one lately on the NIS2 directive. One very interesting, to my eyes, on psychology in cybersecurity, where they explain the analysis of the human factor in cybersecurity. And even a series on ransomware resilience. So you can have a look at what they're doing. Secura is a Bureau Veritas company. We're happy to work with them. But subject of the day, so we stay in the cyber subject of the day. Let's get to it. The evolution of the ISO 27001 standard through its 2022 version. So to introduce the subject more specifically, Jens, maybe we can go back to the ISO 27000 series and what it is. Can you explain to the audience what it is? We're talking about information security management system, right?
Yeah, we do. And the information security management system is a system of policies, processes, controls that you as management have in the tools you have in hand in order to have the control with you. The 27001, the 27 family of series is made for that. It's made for companies to have the control and to preserve it and to even be better day by day. The series of standards here is quite broad. We have 80 something standards of today actually in this series here. It's a very huge one, but we should not look into 80 standards instantly. We have a couple here, which is the core basis 27001, which is a specification that is the one we are certifying against. That's here we have the requirements for that. In the 27001, we have the famous Annex A, the one with the controls, and that control list is opened up, and there's made a standard for that to guide you on that one, and that's the 27002. The 27002 is a book of 160 pages in the new version, where you have the guideline for how to look into the controls, what's the perspective, what should be in them, and how should we preserve things with that control. The 27003 is a guideline for how to set up and implement a management system. So that's actually the guideline for setting up the whole management system framework. The 27004, as mentioned here, is the one we are using to find out how we are measuring, how we're doing metrics, how to work with the controls to collect and to gain knowledge from those. 27005 is information security risk management. We do have the risk management in 31,000 series, but that 31,000 series is risk management on all perspective. Here we have one specific for information security. And the 27006 is one that we are using as a Bureau Veritas company or as an accreditation body, because we are using this one, and that's the requirement to us. How can we, or how do we work when we come up and doing certification on a client or company?
Okay, thanks for the intro of the 27,000 series. If we have a closer look, so you said already a tiny bit, a few words on the difference between the 27,001 and the 27,002, but they're quite intertwined, if I'm right. So am I right to summarize there by saying, okay, 27,001 certifiable scheme, 27,002 not a certifiable scheme, so it gives the guidelines, but they're a bit connected. You mentioned the annex. How does that go?
Yeah, well, it is like that the 2701 is the one we are certified against. That's the one having the main requirements, and one of the most important requirements here is to describe your risk-based approach. How do you do risk management? How you do prioritize harm towards you? How do you analyze? How do you prioritize it? And how do you find the solution to come to a situation where you can accept the level of risk you do have? And when you do that and work with that, we can say that risk management in that regard will be more or less the same as a cost-benefit analysis in the business as such. What can we do to preserve ourselves? When we work with that, we then have this annex of controls to look into to secure that we have looked at all perspectives, that we are covered in terms of if it's a technical measure we are talking about here. There maybe also could be a measure regarding process or the people part that we saw previously in process, people, technology. That technique, that technical control also have something to do regarding people, and that's where we're using that annex. The 2702 and the other side here is the guideline for how to use that set of controls. And yes, the guideline here says should, but it doesn't really matter, because if your risk assessment is that high that you should do something, there should be shall. So that's how you work with it. But the new version that came up here in February, and that was the way they did the revision. They started the revision by revise the annex that came up, and when they approved that in the ISO organization, that of course also implied a revision of the 27001, because that's where we have the main requirement.
So technically, the Annex A of the 27001 is encompassed in the guidelines that are set by 27002. So we kind of knew since February 2022 that there would be an evolution of the 27000, right?
Correct. Correct.
And that's, if I get what you say, you could be theoretically an organization following the guidelines of 27002 without being certified. This is why they say should.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But if you want to be certified, then you shall actually follow the set of requirements, right?
As absolutely correct. And we also see that in the real world, where companies are following the 27002, the guidelines from there, doing all the right things in all the different areas that they have in their control landscape, but actually do not do that with a set from with the risk management perspective quite so strong from the 27001. But it's correct that we can work with that if we'd like so. But if we go into a situation where we want to be certified, we need to compress a complete package. That's correct.
And so, well, let's move on into the evolutions, because
let's do that.
We've been saying, okay, February 2022, new version of 27002, October 2022, new version of 27001. So what's new on 27001? Let's start with that one. What are the major changes since the last updated revision?
Absolutely. I can say that the wording, the first one has a new title. The old title, to start with that one, the old title was Security Techniques. That doesn't really say anything about what should I do, what is it about this here. Yeah, it's something about security techniques, so that's not really. But now the title says Information Security, Cybersecurity, and Privacy Protection. So it's much more in line with what it actually is. And
it's accurate. Also, it's more modern. It's in the era of time, right?
Much more accurate, and much more in line with what is always has been all the 10, 12 years it has been here. So it's much more correct right now. Yeah.
So first one is title. Second one, Annex. We mentioned it.
Yes, the Annex is new, and it's of course aligned with the 27002, because that's the guideline for it. And the clauses, remaining clauses in the standard 4 to 10, which is the requirement clauses, they are pretty much the same. There are some wording, but there are note that in the on the Annex A, that's of course are changed, because now you should not look at the old Annex A. Now you should look in the new table instead.
Okay.
So that's the difference here. So not that much of change in this one here.
But the key question is obviously, and not much of a suspense there, what's new with the 27002?
The new one in the 27002, yes. That's another one. It had also modified the naming. Now it's information security and cybersecurity protection, information security controls. So now it's also telling about what it is we are working with now. Also, the structure has changed. So we now present a much more simple taxonomy and a newcomer, something about attributes. But let's take that in a minute.
Yes,
and then the new thing is also that part of the controls from the old days, that were 114 controls, we all talk about 114, and that have been the name of the game for many years. But now we are moving into 19.3 instead, and we do it such that the new classification of the 93 will now, instead of 14 areas, go into 4 areas.
So simplification, in other words. So
simplification, yeah, absolutely.
merging controls to make more sense, to also make it a bit lighter, even though we keep the same level of quality verification, I guess, or safety in cyber security, but reorganizing a tiny bit the standard. Am I right to say so?
Absolutely, and it's much more intuitive how to work with it now than it was before.
And so new classification for domains. We're gonna see in a second what they are, even though we see them on the slide. But also the new layout, if I got that right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. The old version, the old guideline had only 3 headlines. There was title, text, and some guidance on that one. But now we go in with some new here. We have a table with some attributes, which I mentioned before, and we will look into in a minute. There are also a couple of other things. One of them is purpose. Now there is a sentence about the purpose for this control. And actually what that does is that gives some guidance for the group of people in an organization that are not used to talk the language I do about cybersecurity, IT, and stuff like that, and the methodology around that. People like me that have been many years in the business, yeah, well, we use that as a support, but actually we can use that to explain for the business people that work with economic, that work with production, that work with whatever in the business, what this control actually is about. Because the core is that they need to help me in order to that we together can have the control on our cybersecurity.
We'll see an example in a minute.
Yeah.
Well, just let's first illustrate a tiny bit the new setup of the control. So you were mentioning, indeed, 14 domains and 114 controls in the 2013 version, 2022 version, 4 new domains and 93 controls. Can you run us through it?
Yeah, so what we saw here was that the 93 controls were collapsed. And the 140 controls, of course, were collapsed to 82 controls, revised controls. And for instance, if you looked into an area like change management was in the old scheme here at the left side. It was mentioned in 4 different controls. So now you have collapsed into one because change management, it's the same methodology that you should use all over your company. And you should also look at change management as a theme you agree on independently on where you sit in the organization. So that's the reason for collapsing all those controls here, because it makes it much more simple to be able to set the policy and the controls for those policies actually.
And
then we have, yeah, sorry,
I was saying, and spread out into new domains. So organizational, people controls, physical controls, technological controls also makes it easier to work with, right?
It is, because it's in controversial to the old setup here with 14 domains. It makes it much more simple to say, okay, this issue I have here is something about physicality, and then we should look into those 14 that are here. Before you should look into all areas and pick them out, so to speak. Here we have them collected. And that's the same for the rest of them. The newcomer here is the new 14, the new 11 controls.
So
they are, yeah.
Let's have a look.
There, yeah, exactly. They are here, and they are out of the situation that we now in a new world. We are now in a cloud-based world. We are in a world with cybersecurity and other stuff like that. So we also need to have controls spanning that area. That was terminologies that were not known back in the 2010s, the beginning of the 2010-12 when the old standard was coming up. But now they are here: threat intelligence, information security for cloud services, information deletion. Why do we do that? In the old days, we never deleted anything, but now we begin to delete things. That's also pushed by legislation, for instance. If you looked into the GDPR in Europe, for instance, or regulations like that, now we are actually demanding for each other to delete. How to do that? Do we do it right? Do we have controls in place and so on? Data masking, the same with that one, and so on. So this is a set of controls for the new era.
For the new world.
For the new world, yeah, absolutely.
And so if we have a look now at the control layout, we said there was something new about the control layout. Maybe you want to comment on this as well to explain it a bit to our audience.
Yes, of course I want to do that, because there are two things in this slide here I think that is interesting. The one is the control that is 5.7 here, threat intelligence. That's a highly technical term. What does it mean? I'm not really. Do we know something about that? People that are in the business know what it is, but not necessarily all know it. And the people outside the business definitely not know anything about threat intelligence. What is it and how does it work? But here we have the purpose describing what is this. It is to provide awareness of the threat environment. What is the threat against us? And what is that can impact us as a company? So this control here is telling something about that. And one of the things that it can help us finding out, where in my organization do I then find people to work with that control? We have the control scheme on the top here, the template, the frame here with the 5 areas: control type, information security properties, cyber security concepts, operation capabilities, and the security domains. Those attributes here is guiding us towards who and where in our business do we work with this control, who has the responsibility, and so on. So here, this is what I see as the most refreshing novelty in the new standard, and actually that does it very, very, I'll not say, but okay, fun to work with. it's actually more easy now to go in and implement the standard than it was in the old annex. It's much more in line with what business do and how business are working, and it's actually quite nice to work with this new theme here. They do set different perspectives based on the theme, and you can sort and filter this now according to how you are working in your company. That's actually where this goes in to be really, really interesting. I work with this scheme. I work with this from the draft version of the standard. I've actually worked with it for the last 2 years, and it's really impressive what we can do in terms of going from having a control to explain it to the business, to find the responsibility person out there.
So
in those 5 areas here. Yeah.
Can you run us through these attributes?
I'll do that. Maybe, of course. Yes. Let's do that.
Okay. Let's go. So for the first time, control types, for example.
The first one here is control types, and we know the attributes already. We can see what it is if we look at the attributes here. It's designed to display the controls from a perspective where and how the effect of a risk or an instance or an event will hit us. Is it here preventive, detective, or corrective? It would say, is it before, during, or after an event? And that could be interesting. If we take, let's say backup, for instance, is that measure something that we do before something is happening? What do we do before something is happening? We do backup, for instance. If something happening, what do we then do? And then we have control for that. And after that do we something third that can be a business continuity in some terms. So the perspective is different from this. So that's the control type.
Okay, so the first one could be preventive, detective, corrective, right? The values.
Yeah, that's the one we can filter on. Yes. The next is the information security properties. And those here are relevant, and we know them from a long time. We have worked with them for the last 10, 15, 20 years. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That's what information security is all about. So you can also fill them here. I'll say, if you use those controls here, you use them in combination with some of the other attributes you have. But so that's how it is. Yeah.
Pretty classic for the first two control types and IS properties.
Exactly.
Now let's move to cybersecurity concepts.
And here we have really something that we can use. The NIST framework, the NIST cybersecurity framework, known from US, has for many years had the link back to a control framework in the ISO world. Now we also go the other way. Now the ISO standard points at where in the NIST framework do this control fits. And why that? Because many companies are working within this framework, and they are using this framework in their own management systems. So it makes very good sense that when we now come and say, do you want to be certified, or do you want to align more against the ISO standard? We also have a mapping between what do we do in the NIST landscape and what do we do in the ISO landscape. So that we can use those four here. So actually go in, say now I filter identity, and then the list of controls in the ISO landscape will come up for matching for those. Yes.
And so next on the line are operational capabilities. So
yes,
many values are available for that one. Can you just explain us what it is?
I can explain it. And here we have the operational capabilities is much more in line with what we have done in the old world of 2013 version, because there you had 14 areas. Those 14 areas are more or less here in those capabilities. They are translated into capabilities, and they're more or less here now. So, but what that also does is that point into the business who is working with it. So here we can find human resource, for instance. Here we can find identity management. Here we can find event management or legal compliance or whatever it is. And here you can then fill it out and then go into the other part of the organization who has the responsibility for that part. This is actually where my clients was most happy. We were able to, in a quite large organization, to quite quick point out who had the responsibility to set up the policy, set up the requirement, set up the controls for how to also how that also is implemented. Yes.
Super clear. And last but not least, security domains.
Yeah, and here we go into the future. The EU NIST directive is now nearly approved. The new NIS2 directive. And what's come out of this is that we also now have an organization in Europe for looking into the future here. And they are setting up 4 areas or 4 attributes for their work in their framework. The governance and ecosystem, call it, protection, defense, and resilience. And now we can also again filter out and find out what is the control landscape that we know of compared to or matched to what's coming out of the security domains.
Super clear. So if I summarize the time bit, because we've been giving a lot of information to our audience yet. 27002 new version is actually a simplification. It's aligning to both European and non-European international regulation. We mentioned the NIST cybersecurity framework for the US, for example, the NIST and NIS2 directive for Europe. So aligning with non-ISO regulation or text, but to make it easier to read. Second is an easier user experience, if I may say, about a standard by adding new layouts, simplifying a tiny bit the way you can read and go through the standard and understand what you have to do. And those attributes that make it very easy to know where you're heading, who's bearing responsibility in the complex organization. Am I right to present it this way, Jens?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I think it's more easy now to work with than it was before. Agree. Absolutely. You grab it pretty fint.
So key question now is what's coming next? What's coming next for our clients, for our audience member, for companies that would like to be ISO 27001 certified? What should they do?
Yeah, well, the new standard is here now and released, of course. But that also means that the companies we have that are already certified, they in the coming 3 years, they will go into a revision of the system, of course. But when next time they need to be certified, they will be certified against the new version 2022. So that the certificate will mention that, of course. And for that, we have now expected to be a 3-year transition period. I'll just say that this is not necessarily decided yet. I also hear rumors saying, well, we try to do it in 2, but let that be. That will be a transition period in all cases. And what's coming before that is that now the international accreditation forum should sit together and come up with a guideline for transition. Then the accreditation bodies will go in with their guidelines saying how do we want to do this in our own area. And then finally, the certification bodies as ourselves, as Bureau Veritas, will now decide, okay, how do then we do this based on those guidelines we are receiving to the point. But I think that will come quite fast.
And something we can say to our audience member and many of our clients, you don't have to wait for the last year of the transition period or the last month or the last week of the transition period to actually work on your recertification. Because obviously you can start working on this actually now. You can get ready now, right?
Exactly.
Jens, you can start.
I suggested, and I will strongly recommend that you start now. Do not wait more. Go in, download the new standard from ISO or where you grab your standards. 27001, yes, we more or less know that one, but at least 27002. Go down, find that one, and begin to implement today, because there are controls here in terms of the new landscape, whether someone cloud, cybersecurity, and so that will help you with a new perspective. And definitely that will be much more easy to work with. And then next, go out, begin to revise your assessment plan for a risk assessment, check how your new controls affect you, and then begin to create your statement of applicability based on those and based on the new standard. If you are looking in the annex of the 27002 guideline, there actually is a table that corresponds the old 2013 version with the new 2022 version. So you can use that table to correspond what you do today and find the new control for in the new world. And then, of course, consider your operation capabilities and how they can help you implement and take control in your own environment.
To do that, I guess you can reach out to your local BV office. We're everywhere around the world, so we're here to help you, whether it is for ISO 27001, the transition that we were mentioning today, a bit further to help you with the Secura offer from BV Secura that we mentioned in the introduction. But we're here to make it simple. We're here to assist our clients. I think you would agree with me on this, Jens. This is our value. We bring trust to our clients.
Yeah, we bring trust to our clients, but we also give the clients by this here an opportunity to have the controls in their own hands.
And that's very important. That's very important. I think we covered the subject for today. Jens, do you agree with me? Or yeah, we good?
I think we covered it quite well. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, and thank you for your time. Thank you for your clarity, your view on this. I think it's very helpful for the team. And I just have to tell you and wish you a good end of day. Same for our audience, and we'll speak soon to you. Right?
Thank you.
Have a very good day. Bye-bye.